Good afternoon, this is Chris from SOS Ministries. For a full, concise, detailed study of the true Church of God, write unto me at SOS Ministries at apt.net.au or write to my PO Box 4103, Keilor Downs, postcode 3038, Victoria, Australia. So, the true Church of God. Well, the true Church of God is defined by God calling his people. Okay, and we'll just hop straight into the verses and it'll explain itself. Isaiah 51 verse 16 says, I have put my words into thy mouth, and I have covered thee in the shadow of mine hand, that I might plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth, and say unto Zion, thou art my people. So we're talking about God and his people, okay? Jeremiah chapter 6 verse 2, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. I must explain that a woman is represented as a church in the Bible. When we're talking about God's church, we talk about a pure woman or an undefiled woman. If you refer to the first couple of verses of Revelation chapter 12, it will come to that in a minute. In Revelation chapter 12 verse 17, and it says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Revelation chapter 14 verses 12. Here is the patience of the saints, here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. That is your church. I don't worship in any congregation anymore because of the corruption of man, the traditions of man. If you were to read Matthew chapter 15 verses 1 to 9, and I'll quote the 9th verse, and it says, what did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoureth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for the doctrines, the commandments of men. If you read verses 1 to 9 of Matthew chapter 15, you'll get the exact context of what I'm trying to say. Because the disciples were hungered, and the elders of the church, or the synagogue at the time, said, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders, for they not wash their hands before they eat bread? And Jesus replied and said, why do you break the commandment of God by your tradition? So please go through those 9 verses and you'll get the meaning. Look, we'll go to Matthew 16 verse 16, and it says, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's what Peter said to Christ. And Christ said to him in the next verse, heaven and flesh and blood have not revealed this unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. So basically, on that confession, that the true church of God is established. If we go to John chapter 10 very quickly before we run out of time. John chapter 10 verse 27 says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. In John chapter 18 verse 37 it says, Pilate therefore said unto him, art thou the king then? Jesus answered, thou sayest, I'm a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into this world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. In Acts chapter 2 verse 47, I think it's a very appropriate verse. Acts chapter 2 verse 47. They're just examples of what God's church is. And it says, praising God and having favour with all the people, the Lord added unto his church daily such as should be saved. Now if we go to Ephesians chapter 5, Ephesians chapter 5, very important, Ephesians, it is very important that we read this, chapter 5. I'm referring to my notes here, and it says verse 23 to 25. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Saviour of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be subject to their own husbands in everything. But I'd like to say this final verse, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. The Christ is the head of the church of God, because to follow God we must accept Jesus Christ as his only begotten Son. I could continue, but I will not, because I'd like you to write to my email address, which is sosministries@apt.net.au, or my PO box, which is 4103 Keilor Downs, postcode 3038, Victoria, Australia. May God bless you, and remember, God's church are those who keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus, and his testimony is that he's the Christ and he is God's Son, and that salvation can only be met if we follow Christ. You can't follow God without following Jesus Christ, because Christ is God's anointed and he is the express image of God's person. So therefore to follow Christ is to follow God himself. It will be Jesus that returns to collect those who loved God in the clouds of heaven. It will be Jesus who will declare judgment, because it is written, all judgment has been given unto the Son. God bless you.